What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video we are working on the climate control again. I got a replacement unit from the seller and I've put it in. Let's start the car up and see if the saga continues with the climate control. So I'm pretty sure one of two things is happening. Either that unit that I had before was indeed bad, or the harness itself is having connectivity issues. I'm really hoping it's not the harness. I'm just hoping it was the other unit, so fingers crossed. So far so good. I'll play around with it for a little bit and then we'll go for a ride. So as I said in the previous video, I'm not sure if the heat works in this car. So this climate control unit seems to be working so far. I'm gonna let the heat run for a minute and see if it warms up. If it doesn't, I know that it could be other problems like the blend door or the programmer. So let me see if this works. If it doesn't, I'll troubleshoot that other stuff, but the goal is to make sure that this thing is working. The reason I say I think that the issue could be the wiring harness is because when I was trying to get the climate control to work last time, as I would move it around, it would seem to spaz out a little bit. So that's usually an indicator that you have some sort of connectivity issue. But there's also things within the climate control unit that could cause that as well. So we'll see. The heat doesn't seem to be working and the car is completely warmed up, so that's a bummer, but I'll have to look at some other things that it could be. So far so good, guys. Obviously it's not doing what it did in the last video, so let's go for a ride, and as we hit some bumps we'll see if it tweaks out a little bit or if it stays the same. Guys, I've been driving for about a half hour and it hasn't skipped a beat, so I think we might be good. Utah roads kind of suck and we have no shortage of bumps, so I think I've given it a good test. And again, it hasn't done anything. I think I'm comfortable enough now to button everything up, which will be nice. I'm going to be happy to have everything put back together, so I'm gonna head back to the house and start doing that. Okay guys, we're back from the test drive. I'm glad everything seemed to go well. So now let's start putting things back together. So before I start putting things back together, I want to replace the bulbs behind the information center. So this is held in by 3 screws. There's one there, and one there. So I'll take those out and then start replacing some bulbs. Okay, the screws are out, and let's just see how this comes out. So I'm just gently pulling it back. I think I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. Okay guys, so This thing is pretty fragile, and the harness does not have a lot of slack. So what I'm gonna do is just reach around as best I can to replace the bulbs. I don't want to mess anything up or try and disconnect that harness, so I'm just gonna try and work with it like this, and hopefully I can reach all the bulbs. I'm probably being too big of a chicken, but I just don't want to risk damaging anything. So here's the new bulbs. I'll put a link to these in the description below, but I got them from that guy. Okay guys, I got all the bulbs switched out. There are 2 bulbs behind the left side or driver's side of the information center, and I had to switch out the bulbs from these new sockets to the old sockets just because these new ones were too big. So I just swapped the bulbs out. They're the same bulbs, so there shouldn't be any issue with that, but we'll see. There are 2 sockets back here that don't have bulbs, and they both have to do with tire pressure sensors, and so my car doesn't have those, so I assume that's why I don't have bulbs in those spots. So what I'm gonna do now is tighten these little screws here. Some of them appear to be a little bit loose, and then I'm just gonna wipe this down a little bit and then put it back in place, and then we'll test it and see how it looks. Okay, everything's all put back together and tightened down, and I just wiped it off with a clean microfiber towel. So let's see if we can get some of these lights to work. So I'm just gonna open the door. Looks like the security light's working. I'm just gonna turn the key on and see if we got lights, which we do. Okay, looks like they're all working. If you guys see any that didn't light up that should have, let me know which one it is in the comments below. It's hard to see because it's still daylight outside, but the left side of the information center seems to be working. I think I'm good, so let's proceed with putting things back together. Okay guys, so obviously everything is already apart, so you're gonna kind of see this in the reverse order, but let me show you how I got everything apart. So let's start with this panel here. So there's 2 screws on the side, which are these 2 right here. You have 2 screws on the bottom, so one there, and then there's one more right there on the side. So once you have all those screws out, what you need to do is take all the screws out of this panel, because that panel kind of sits behind that one. So you got to make sure you take out these screws as well. So there's one there, and then one there. So 3 across the top. There's one right there in the corner, and then there are 4 over here. So you have one there, one right there, and then one over here in the corner. It's easy to miss that one. So once you guys get all of those screws out, what you're gonna wanna do is you gotta kind of pull this panel outward as far as you can. And then as you pull this one towards you, you just kind of gotta rotate it and then pull it out. It takes a little finesse, but if you work with it, it shouldn't be too bad. So hopefully that makes sense. For the shifter plate, it's kind of tricky. You have to make sure you unscrew this little lighter socket from the cigarette lighter assembly back there. Not sure if you can see that very well, but essentially it just screws in to a little socket back there, and that's kind of what holds it in place right here. Obviously once you take these 2 screws out for this piece, those are 2 screws that also hold this piece in. I wanted to avoid taking this knob off at all costs. It just seemed like a pain in the butt, so I left that alone. What I did is just kind of worked around it. So with the key on, I just put it in like neutral or drive, and then I just lift it up, and then you can rotate it. So it just makes it a little easier to work with. Here's that socket I was telling you about for the cigarette lighter. That piece just screws into that. And then there's 2 screws back here. Once you open the middle console, there's just 2 screw holes in there for this back part of it. So when I took this off, you kind of have to pull up pretty hard. You know, make sure you have this unscrewed first, and then pull up pretty hard, and it'll release once you have all the screws out. So I need to plug in the light, and then also make sure my shift indicator is back where it needs to go. Hopefully that all makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know. But I'm gonna start reassembly, and I'll keep you guys posted as I go. Okay guys, I got the shifter plate back installed. So again, 2 screws right there, 2 screws right there, and then these 2 screws will go in once I put that panel back in. Got my shifter indicator in the right spot. It plugged in the bulb, so far so good. Okay guys, this panel is back in. I just got to put the screws in, but again, just pull this as far as it'll go. Just pull it outward, and then put this side in first, and just kind of rotate it into place. Sorry, it's really hard to do with one hand and try and film, so I had to put you guys down, but just be patient. Keep in mind that this plastic is really old and brittle, so just go slow, be patient, and you shouldn't have any issues. So I'm going to start putting these screws in and buttoning everything up. I kind of hit a snag when I was putting this screw back in. It's supposed to go into one of these clips, but apparently when I was taking this off, it broke. So as you can see, this piece is broken, so I need to, it just kind of goes in like that. I need to super glue it back together and let it dry, and then I should be good to go. So that sucks, and I'm running out of daylight, so I'll probably have to pick things up tomorrow. But again, I'll glue this and then try and put everything back together again. Okay guys, it's the next day, and I think I have this piece fixed. So I used a lot of super glue last night and put it all back together. I put this screw clip back on, so it's ready to go back in. Hopefully this holds up, and I'm gonna finish buttoning everything up today. As you can see, it's all back together. Hallelujah, I'm glad that's over. Check it out. I'll link the bulbs and the climate control unit in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.